Welcome to the Sonic Shaman Show, home of the Coffee Connect and Conscious Connections. The show is dedicated to empowering you to perceive, know, be, and express your unique voice in this world without the fear of judgment of others through healing, coaching, and educational services. In each episode, Hank and his guests offer tools, techniques, and inspiration to help you step into your potency. Now, here is your host, Hank Setala.
I am so excited to have Heather on this stream with me today. I've worked with Heather for years. It's kind of become an annual tradition of you coming out to Cleveland and holding some classes and things. But I connected with her years ago, going down to Columbus for my first foundation class, and that just opened up this crazy door of possibilities. And yesterday was my birthday, and I always say on my birthday, I believe that we kind of get this impulse from our higher knowing, if you will, to cultivate and to work with and flower throughout the year. And so Heather came into my life again this year, just in like the perfect moment. So welcome, Heather. How are you today?
Oh, thank you. I'm so honored to be here with you and so excited for what we can create with this.
And now Heather is a certified facilitator of access consciousness, which is one of the modalities that I practice. And it's more than a modality. It's really just pure awareness. Why don't you give us, because some people might not know what access consciousness is, could you kind of give a brief, the Cliff Notes version of access and what it means to be a certified facilitator?
Well, access is a modality. It's a whole universe of tools and possibilities that allow you to have more of you and to create what you'd really like to create in the world and change anything that's stopping or limiting you in any way. And there are a couple levels of certification with it. It all kind of starts with something called access bars, which is a modality. It's a body process, 32 points on the head that when you lightly touch them, release thoughts, feelings, emotions. And it's just a beautiful way to relax. And then there are other facilitators like myself who facilitate the foundation and other classes, which is 4 immersive days of tools and possibilities.
And that was what really started to blow the door open for myself. That's when, I think the very first one, that's when the center got opened and everything really started taking off. And now it feels like I'm getting in what I like to call that slingshot. If you have that feeling, you know, you're about to rocket into possibilities, it feels like you're getting pulled back in the slingshot in the universe, the arms of the universe, and just rocketed into the next dimension. And I see people joining us. Thank you so much for being here. As you know, when we do these, I love for it to be interactive. So if you have questions, comments, anything going on in your world, that there might be a tool in Heather's toolbox that she could take out and maybe offer to us, now's your chance to, just say that. I know I'm streaming way earlier than normal, so you guys are probably in bed, listening to me underneath the covers, all snuggled, which is the best place to listen for possibilities because you don't have anything to worry about in the world. If you I know my answer to this already because we have it on the wall in the center. One of the most important things for access that starts to change lives is the mantra of access. Could you share that with us?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's all of life comes to us with ease, joy, and glory. And what we recommend is that you play with it, say it 10 times in the morning. And it's funny, as we're saying that, a bird outside is singing. And that's the kind of beauty and harmony with all the molecules in the universe and with nature and with everything that desires to nurture and support us, that when we work with this mantra, it really brings in that energy. And lately, a recommendation is to run it 100 times. So sometimes I'll just lay in bed in the morning, like you said, listening for those whispers of possibility and say the mantra 100 times.
Awesome. And if those of you, I don't know if you can see it, I just changed my background in the far corner. You can see, oh, my head's blocking it. You can see it right behind me. All life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And that's where we have it on the wall because we feel it's that important. And just to add an element of science to that, when you use an affirmation like that or a mantra, if you look in the mirror, your brain starts to associate what you're saying with what it's seeing. And it can add a little bit more potency to whatever it is, whether it's just mantra or something else, it starts to engage the brain a little bit differently. So just a little extra science to make even more possibilities.
I love that.
So, what would you say when you start when people hear about these crazy tools called Access? What kind of questions do you normally get from people? Because I know people are still kind of in their sleep comas and things like that, waking up maybe. But did you have certain things that always seem to come up that you would want to kind of shed some light on about Access?
Well, one thing that's been really fun, people show up in access bars, and access bars is really on my mind today because at 10:30 Eastern I'm facilitating a bars class here at my house. So I'm actually, my computer right now is on a massage table, because it's a day of relaxing on massage tables and learning this incredible, that 32 points that allow you to relax and receive. And what I've found in classes recently is people coming in with, well, I don't really have any problems. I'm just looking to create something greater. Like, I know more is possible. And for how many of you guys who are watching, how much do you know is possible for you that hasn't yet actualized, that hasn't yet shown up? What else is possible you haven't ever considered? And is now the time?
Those were it reminds me of something that was said to me by one of my favorite authors. His name's Neil Donald Walsh, and he wrote the books Conversations with God. And I was in line to get my book signed by him, and I was talking about I was in one of his classes, and I was waiting to finish all these classes before I started creating. And as he's signing the book, he looks at me and says, "If not you, who? If not now, when?"
Yeah.
And I just talked about it yesterday, the
Yeah.
importance of, avoiding the prison of perfection and really diving in and start creating. If you're waiting, you're not creating, and to not wait till it's perfect. And if you just start to show up, we said this yesterday. We said it could be a meme when we were talking, just show
Yeah.
up and things happen. If you just start to authentically show up, it starts to churn the mechanism of the universe to make things create more in your life. And Mary Lee's joining us. I don't know if you're correcting my spelling, Mary Lee, or you're just saying possibilities. I think I spelled it right. I thought I used spell check. If not, I'll have to get it
Hi,
corrected.
Mary.
Good morning, Mary, and good morning to everyone that's joining us. And
Yeah.
that's the other thing that I find with our bars nights, because for those of you who don't know, at the center on the first Thursday every month, we do a bars clinic, and you can it is by
Awesome.
reservation, because we have to keep people when it's not an official class where it's like a requirement and stuff like that. We try to keep it the people in the center a little bit lower, but you can just show up, schedule a time, pay what you like, and get your 30 minutes of bars run. And a lot of people might come and they don't even realize that they had anything to work on. But after getting off the table, they just feel the space and possibility. I even had somebody message me. They showed up, that they said they had plans with somebody. The people canceled the plans, and this guy's was really depressed and had even considered suicide and things. And I didn't know that at the time, but he came to the bars night. I worked on him. Then I got this email this long, this like saying, "Oh my gosh, this totally changed my life." And he was thinking about suicide. Now he's thinking about how he can change the world. And that was from a 30-minute bar session from someone that didn't even
Yeah.
really think there that wasn't being transparent with things going on. So it's like it works on the things that you don't see too. It works on the things that you're
Oh my
not aware
gosh.
of.
It really does. It really does.
Cool. Let's see. So, what do you guys have any questions about? They're sleeping. I know they're sleeping. They're just in bed, chilled out.
Or they'd love to stay in bed and get their bars run.
And I got my espresso tea. It's so good. That kind of wake me up in the morning. Let's see. Where shall we go with our conversation? What's your most? What's your most? I don't want to use the word favorite. What's your most, besides the mantra? What's your most used tool and access that you feel you use every single day that creates change and possibility in your life?
The number one question that I ask every day is, what does consciousness require of me today?
What does
And
consciousness require me?
yeah, and really access is you know, there's so many amazing questions in access. There are infinite possibilities. And if you're ever stuck in a situation, or if you're looking to create something, you can always ask, what question can I ask here? And we're not doing this to arrive at a conclusion. In fact, when we do come to a conclusion of like, oh, this is the thing, then we're actually blocking and limiting and putting blinders onto the other possibilities that the universe could actually give to us and bring to us. So asking questions is an amazing tool. And I asked questions before I found Access Consciousness, only they were they were sometimes conclusions with a question mark attached. So an example of that would be, what would it take to have a new house? Well, there's a bunch of conclusions in that. Instead of, what would it take to live someplace that totally nurtures and honors and heals and gifts to me and my body and the bodies of everyone who comes and steps inside its doors? I mean, that's a totally different energy. And so playing with questions is really, really fun. And just being in the presence and in the awareness of the energy when I ask the question. In fact, that's how Gary Douglas discovered this thing called the bars and this whole incredible realm of possibilities and tools called Access, was by asking a question. He was in this place in his life, over 25 years ago, where he had a lot of great stuff. He had all the trappings of what a successful life is in this reality, only he knew that there was more. He knew that there were greater possibilities available. He just knew. And how many of you guys know that there is something else that's possible, that there's something else that you would like to create that would add to your life, that would nurture your body, that that there's something else is possible? So he started asking the question, and this is right out of Bar's class. You can tell Bar's is on my mind today. What can I be, create, or generate to make my life and the world a better place? And by asking that question and becoming aware of the energy that asking that question was creating, he started to choose the things that matched that energy. And so for all of you guys who are watching, oh, I'm so sorry, Hank. I'm like, just
go for it. Go for it. I was just saying, like, it's a huge thing that I talk about, is like following the energy, and that's, I'm just paralleling to some of the things I normally say. Please run on. It's good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, for how many of you guys, like, what question could you be asking that would actually invite the possibilities that you've been yearning for, that are available to you, and that perhaps seem inaccessible right now?
And there's a flip side to that too. Like, what questions might you be asking that aren't being a contribution? I know that one of the things that they talk about in Access is to question why. And I bring it up on a lot of my streams, that people, when you're in the question of why, it's like giving an instruction to the universe to give you another experience with the same result, and you experience the same thing again. And so instead of asking why, a tool in Access would be, well, what else is possible here? And breaking out of the cycles that keep showing up that you're not really looking to show up again in your life. And that's a huge thing. Not just what you're asking, but what you're going to stop asking.
Exactly. Because we're always asking, and we may not be conscious of what we're asking. I mean, that's one of the tools that we talk about in the foundation class of Access, which is kind of a longer exploration of these tools into whole different areas of life and living, is how did I create this? Because if there's something that's not working for you, there's either a belief or a point of view or something we got from someone else, or something that's going on with the body that's creating that as a reality for you. One of the things we say in Access is that your point of view creates your reality, not the other way around. So a question like Hank was saying for the things that aren't working for you would be, what point of view do I have creating this as a reality for me?
And then once you have that awareness, then you can start to choose differently, and then ask another
Yeah.
question, have another awareness, and make another choice. And it starts to be this spiral of possibility that starts to unfold from things like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. And a reminder, everyone, if you have specific questions, feel free to ask them. I wanted to share like
Yeah.
how Heather and I reconnected just recently. If you caught a couple weeks back, I did a reading from the "Money's Not the Problem, You Are" uh, book that's by Gary Douglas and Dr. Dane here. I think they both wrote it. Now, and I'm questioning myself if I was correct, but either way, I did like a reading of about 30% of the book, and people really loved it. And I just know that just recently I was reading like Right Riches for You, which is another Access book. I've been going through Being You, Changing the World, Money's Not the Problem, You Are. Um, there's a whole bunch of tools in Access, and I felt like this a huge level of possibility reading these. And there's one book in Access called the How to Become Money Workbook, and I've actually taken a class with Heather once before, and I was like, oh, you know what? There was so much good stuff in that class, because it's way more than just receiving money. It's about just receiving and shifting the point of view around all that. And I reached out to Heather just to say, hey, what would it take to create, this class again? And it turned into creating four classes, which is where
Woo! Yes.
I have the whole emergenceofbeing.com/possibility. I have them all listed. Now, yesterday was my birthday, so I literally did that in bed while I'm kind of nodding off, like I need to get this finished for tomorrow. And so I just got the website finished. I'm going to polish it up, but it does have everything on there. But I wanted to touch base a little bit about that, because that's something I'm personally taking a deep dive into with this How to Become Money Workbook. Could you speak a little bit about what that is? And I have the link to the book on the webpage as well, if this sounds good to you. It's like a workbook. You literally write answers in it. And Heather's written answers in it like 50 times in the same book. It's really amazing when you see her book. She's gone through it that many times. But could you speak a little bit about that book and how it changed your life and what it might do for others?
Um, Yeah, I mean, it's one of the most dynamic tools of access consciousness, and the number one question with all of this is really, why money? Why even talk about it? And I know a lot of people, and this was certainly my situation before I found access consciousness. It was like, well, I'm really interested in making the world a better place, and I'm interested in healing and contributing to the lives of others. Okay, so what does money have to do with that? Well, can you change the world and contribute to others more with money or without it?
With money, of course.
And with money, yeah. And there are, Dr. Dane here, one of the co-creators of Access Consciousness, talks about how, without money, he wouldn't have been able to send his nephew to a private school where his gifts and talents were able to be nurtured and cultivated. That required a certain amount of money. He was able to be that gift and change that person's life by having the money that he had and making the choices to have more money that he chose. And so what else could you create, and what else in your life could be easier and more nurturing and fun for you if you actually had the money to contribute to that possibility? And so Hank asked me about the How to Become Money Workbook, and it's one of the tools of Access that's really dynamic in changing the points of view that are creating the reality around money that isn't working for us or that is limited in some way.
And one of the things I really like about the book too, when this book was first written, it's literally a transcript from a class, I believe, that Gary Douglas had.
Yeah.
And so it's him asking the questions, interacting with the students. And back when that first started, Access hadn't fully developed into what it is today, and they didn't have some of the tools, like there's the access clearing statement. And what I found, because I thumbed through that book before I took the class from you, and it's a completely different experience when you're going through with a certified facilitator, because you go through it's like usually these ones are going to be 10 calls, like 1 hour
Yeah.
each, give or take, depending on the chapter. But there's like one call for each chapter, plus like a wrap up, if you will. And they facilitate while you go through it. So it's like the information that came through, plus the modern day tools of access, that literally everything that holds you up in terms of receiving, it just starts to shatter those limitations and those glass ceilings, all the different terms we'll talk about and different streams, because all these are different concepts that could be a whole stream in and of themselves probably. But it
Yeah.
really just opens up the door and the space to shift your reality with how things are showing up in your life. And also just that they show up. That's a key thing in access, that they make a differentiation. Actualization is that it shows up. Manifestation is how it shows up. And sometimes when we're creating, we get so caught up in the how that the universe says, well, I had a million ways I could do it, but you're obsessed with one, and it's going to take me a little longer to arrange that one. But if we just put the energy out that it shows up, now it could happen a million different ways. So there's like tools to start shifting places where you don't even realize that you're stuck. And to give one other example, feel the difference in the energy between the statements, this is as good as it gets, or it's good enough. Those are statements where we were taught, if it's good enough, you don't need to seek more or create more possibilities, versus how does it get any better than this? There's one that creates a lot more space, and one that's just kind of a flat, okay, that's it. We have everything that we need. But what else is really possible if you were to ask for the universe for more and for things to show up in your life?
Yeah, and I love the space that when you ask that question, what would it create if you asked the universe for more? Because those of us who are the seekers of the world, we have to be in a constant state of creation in order to have a life that's enough for us. So one of the tools of access is, what can I add to my life? What can I add to my life? What else is possible? What else can I create? Because if we don't have enough going on, that's when we really create the things that aren't so fun, because we're just putting that creative energy into something that maybe isn't nurturing and, isn't ease for us.
Great. And just a reminder for those of you who are awake and listening to us in bed or wherever you are in the world, questions and comments are welcome. I can see you watching. I see the little thing here that I know people are tuning in, but it's fine. There's no questions
Grateful
that
you're
need to be
here.
asked.
Yeah.
However, if you do have a question or even a comment, anything that would spark the direction of our conversation to go down a different rabbit hole of consciousness, we can definitely
Yeah.
love the interaction. And or if you're watching this on a replay, we plan to do more than one of these streams. You can make a comment on the stream and just tag me, because we're streaming to over 8 places. And if you don't tag me, I might not find it, because I don't go through each comment section necessarily afterwards. But if you tag me, then I'll know that Heather and I will make sure to include that in a future stream. But this is so much fun. I love having you talking
I
about
know.
possibilities. It's been a long time. I used to do a whole Power of Possibility podcast, and it just I didn't, the person I did it with kind of took a step back for a bit, and it's been a long time. I love that we're recreating it again, the Power of Possibilities.
I know. And it's like the whole universe and the earth is really behind this. I mean, I mentioned the birds before. They're outside cooing. It's like all the magical beings are here, available. Like, we're here to contribute to you. Is now the time? Like, what can we create? And that's, a tool for all of you guys who are watching, is who and what actually desires to contribute to you.
Ooh, that's a great tool from my favorite access class. Well, they're all my favorite, but there was a specialty of access that Heather facilitated a year or so ago called Talk to the Entities. And a lot of it was, well, how can you receive from an access, we call them teammates, because it doesn't have, there's less point of view around the word teammates than something like spirit
Yeah.
guides or Yanapek in my tradition. But it's like, who's in your corner that is unseen,
Yeah.
that is just wishing they could contribute to you, but all they need is a question like, hey, what could you create for me? and I'm willing to receive it. That's the real thing, being the willingness to receive the contribution, because you can ask for help, you can ask for a lot of things, but if you're not willing to receive it, like you order a pizza, right? You put your order into consciousness, and the pizza shows up on your door. But if you don't open the door and take it, then you ordered a pizza, but you never receive it. I know it's a silly analogy, but at the same time, like, how many people do ask for contribution from people and then end up not taking it? It's kind of
Well,
staggering.
well, and you mentioned the how to become, what are we going to do in the how to become money workbook class over 10 sessions? And like you said, it's all about receiving and getting us out of the point of view of, what is money? Because how many of you guys have asked for money and perhaps the universe has brought it in a way that does not match your blinders of judgment and conclusion and point of view about what money is? I know I asked for money once. I was like, wow, what would it take to have the money to go to this class? And someone gave me gold earrings as a gift. And I was like, wow, that was so fast and so easy. And if I wasn't willing to have the awareness that I actually received what I asked for, it just didn't show up as cash or dollars in my bank account. So these are the kinds of points of view that we're going to be clearing and changing and allowing for that space around money and receiving that Hank was mentioning before when you asked that question.
Yeah, or it could show up. I guess I don't do web design work, but I can web design. And I was approached by a nonprofit that my wife and I are affiliated with, because my kids go to like German school, and I ended up building their website, and then they paid me for it, which was like I didn't put together like, oh, this they're asking me to build the website for them. I wasn't even thinking about it from a money standpoint, and then it all flowed into, oh, here's the money that I asked for this one thing that I wanted to do in my life. And so it does show up sometimes not just as cash or something out of the blue. I never thought that I would be building a website for somebody. Now, nobody get ideas. I'm not offering that. Well, maybe I am. We'll see. I thought about putting together a package where I would build people's websites and things, because I can do it pretty quickly. So it's really easy for me. So when things, look at what comes easy in your life. How often as a kid
Yeah,
were you told like, well, you can never make money doing that? Like artists and things.
totally.
I was just in a boot camp, and there was somebody that was an artist that after they did everything that they were told, they sold $10,000 worth of paintings in a month, doing what they love. But how often are we conditioned like, well, no, you need to, cut that hobby out and go get yourself a real job. And if I had taken that approach, I wouldn't be having the practice that I have today, doing healing work and helping people dive into their limitations and removing them so they can step into possibility. So what comes easy for people, and what energy could you be to turn what you find joy in into something that also provides abundance for you? Because it may be possible, but it's just a matter of unconditioning the mind of that it is possible.
Yeah, and I love that example that you brought in, because that's exactly one of the scenarios that were that's presented in the How to Become Money workbook, is around doing the things that are actually fun for you and that add to your life, that nurture you and your body. What would it be like if you were willing to receive money and payment for that as well?
Yeah. And I'm going to be finishing up in the next weeks. I'm going to be doing the streams for the Money's Not the Problem, You're Book, just the book readings that we're able to do right now. And
Awesome.
then I'll leave it to people. They can vote if they want to do Write Riches for You next, or there's a book by Simone. I mispronounce her last name, Simone Milasas. Is that right?
That's perfect.
Okay. But she wrote the book, The Joy of Business. And even if you're not self-employed,
Oh,
this book, like one of the key principles is that money follows joy. Joy does not follow money. And we talk about on my streams all the time, beingness precedes doingness. Like, what energy could you be for the universe to deliver to you an opportunity to express that being? And that book really dives
beautiful.
in to that with a lot of tools to start shifting and things like that. And then the How to Become a Workbook is like that on steroids, especially with working with someone like Heather.
Thank you. Well, and the joy of business is brilliant. Yes. So, what else could you create that you've never considered?
Awesome. And guys, if I forget now, Heather, were we looking to go a half hour or longer than that?
We will go as long as there is the demand. My bars class starts in an hour and a half, so I have
Oh,
space.
okay. Oh, cool. Well, then I'm pressuring you guys, like those that are watching, like, do you have a question? Where would you like to see it go? Because like I can already tell that some of the things we talked about, we could plan like one whole stream kind of
Yeah.
talking about joy business, one whole thing talking about glass ceilings and things. I'm just wondering now, asking myself, what things have I received the most contribution for from Access and from taking your classes and seeing what kind of percolates for me? You know, actually,
Oh.
well, you go and then I have my next point.
Well, I wonder if I'm going to take us on a whole other tangent based on something you mentioned a few minutes ago. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Well, the thing with receiving, that one of the things that we think we're willing to receive, but the body isn't willing to receive, or the body doesn't know how to receive,
Yeah.
because we live in such a hands-off culture. Like, oh, don't, especially now that COVID. Oh my good lord! Like, don't come close to me. Like, don't, social
Totally.
distancing. And like part of the ability to receive is to be able to nurture the body, and that's one thing that the body processes do. So like the bars nights that we do on the first Thursday of
Oh,
every month,
yeah.
or and also, if you want to become a practitioner, some people do it just so they can come to our practitioner only nights, because it's like bars unplugged and the nights are so much fun, and it's just us swapping with each other, different body processes and things like that, running each other's bars. But it's not like more structured, like, oh, we have, this person, we have to switch the table because we have another person coming in. It's way more relaxed. So but getting on the table, just receiving for the half hour, or
Mm.
on the swap nights we do full sessions, it is such a contribution to the body, and that can start opening up the doors when you nurture the body to start receiving energetically too, for money and other things to show up in your life.
Oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you brought this up, because that's really what was so different about Access for me when I found it. And that's actually what led me to Access Consciousness. Ugh. I was there goes my headphones. I I had, all these different health issues for years, and I was going from modality to modality to try to heal them, because I knew that there was an energetic something underneath all of that. And so much started to shift for me when I found Access, because it was including the body. It was allowing the body to be a creative and generative partner in all of the possibilities that I was looking to invite into my life. And the bars and especially the body processes that I learned in foundation were so healing. Things changed that aren't supposed to be possible. I mean, it's so magical. And so, I mean, as you were talking about these swap nights, what would it take to have one when I'm in Cleveland? I would love that. I'd love
Well, I think,
to see
well, we're having
people, and
a
yeah.
I think your bars class is on a Thursday, because it's Thursday, and then
Uh-huh.
foundation is Friday so I think you're here for one, maybe. I have to look, and if
Awesome.
not, then
Yay.
we can just plan one anyhow, so it's not a problem. See, look, she
Cool.
asked and she received. And Mary Lee did have one talking point. What about receiving relationships? More, Mary Lee's referring more
Mm.
to like the Mr. or Mrs. Right, quote air quotes, showing up in one's life. Are there tools for that type of thing for relationships, or I like to call them, I think it's based on Brendan and Simone's book, Relationships, Are You Sure You Want One? But they talk a
Yeah.
lot about being in a creationship over a relationship. Are there any like quick tools that someone might be able to start to use to unlock the door of the right people, or people of contribution showing up in your life?
Yeah. I mean, one of the questions that I would ask is, if I could have anything as a relationship, what could I have that would actually work for me and my body? And this was the perfect question right after, the body, part of this conversation. Because I know for me, before I found Access, I wasn't including my body in those kinds of choices. And my body would give me all the information that I required, but I was ignoring it. Because I actually, married someone that I met when I was 14, and I decided and concluded then that this person was awesome and perfect. And then I wasn't willing to see anything else. And then when I married him, my body got really sick. And the beauty of that was that I did start seeking. And so I am so grateful because it led me to access, it led me to right here, right now on this stream. So, thank you, universe and consciousness. Thank you, body. And so, one tool for all of this, and this is, something to invite in a nurturing, kind relationship is to start with you and your body. And one tool to play with there is thank you, body. So for all of you who are nestled in bed or wherever you are right now, unless you're driving, because you would careen off road or something, is to put your hands on your face or on another part of your body and just to take a moment of gratitude of thank you, body. Thank you. Thank you. And we say in Access that you can't have judgment and gratitude simultaneously. So even just taking those few moments of kindness and gratitude for your body, putting your hands on your face, allows that space of nurturance and gratitude and a sense of peace. Like how many of you are a little bit calmer for having just taken that moment? And it's those energies that we can invite and play with that will also allow us to invite people into our lives, especially people if we'd like to have an intimate relationship with them, that also have that same energy and vibration of nurturance, of kindness. I mean, what would it be like to be in relationships with people who are actually grateful for you and your body?
Yeah, and I think Dr. Dane talks about it in his Being You book, that it's also the space of really having someone that empowers you to be you, and you empower them to be
Yeah.
them. And and he gives the example that if you are sacrificing to fit into a container that you're calling a relationship, it's like, well, in order to fit, I got to get rid of this part of me, and I got to get rid of this
Yep.
part of me. And before you know it, you have two half beings in a car together or in a box in this relationship, and neither of them is being them, and it ends up both being miserable because they can't be, know, and express who they are. And it's so important to be in that generative space of someone that's really allowing you just to be you and not asking you to sacrifice to be in something that really isn't going to be a contribution.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where it's like, who can we invite? What relationships can we create that exponentialize possibilities?
Ooh, exponentialize. I like that word.
Yeah.
Exponentialize possibilities. I'm going to put that in my I'm already a word nerd, and now I'm going to start using that all the time.
Well, I'm a question nerd. I have lists of questions by topic. I have my consciousness questions, my body questions, my relationship questions. Um, I wake up in the morning and I hear the birds and I thank my body and I start asking questions. So this is so much fun.
Yeah. And we planned her next foundation class perfectly because there's something that happens every year called Global. And it's a requirement for all certified facilitators to take Global. And they literally rewrite the manual. And they do this because every year things are different. And even the BARS manual, I think they sometimes change that 2 or 3 times a
Mhm.
year because they notice that different things are showing up in the world. And based on what's showing up, they're adapting that rapidly to be able to speak to those changes that are showing up. So like right after the rewrite, Heather comes in to foundation with like gobs and gobs of notes, like every question. I think she transcribes the entire class, getting all the new clearings and things. So like even before the new manual was out, I think you had more than what the new manual had because you incorporated so much into the class. So it's like I was like, well, how much fun would it be to do this right after Global so that we get the benefit of Heather's note taking and all these amazing questions that she writes down in clearings that are included in that class. I think that year was like a lot of the ghillie suits, like being camouflaging yourself, not showing up in the world was like a big theme of energy, like trying to fit in. Tall poppy syndrome, I think they call it in Australia.
Yeah. Yeah. So amazing. So fun.
Yeah, I can just feel the space. Like people are probably like, I have a question, but I can't think of it because it just went blank. But, but Mary Lee, did that answer your question of relationships? I hopefully that gives you a couple tools and any other questions. And if not, I like to keep these under an hour because it's just a nice time frame for it to be loaded to Instagram TV and then the podcasts for people to still listen to it on lunch breaks and things like that. So we'll say final call for questions if you are having a question, and we will be planning more of these. So if you are
Yeah.
watching on a replay, make your question, tag me, and let me know. Assuming Mary Lee's still watching, I think she is. Feels like she is, but I'm not 100% sure. Or I am. I'm just doubting myself. But I also know she might
Well,
be moving around the kitchen doing things while she's she's there. She's just doing stuff. Um, so if you make it back, I'm going to assume that helped out, Barry. And if not, you know where to find me, and I will um, we'll speak more about it on the next stream. Anything that you were really looking to talk about today for our first stream ever that we haven't talked about yet? Yep,
yeah.
she says, yep, I'm here. Thank you, Mary Lee, for confirming
Thank you
my
for
knowing.
being here.
Was there
Yeah.
anything that you really were hoping that we would bring up and talk about that we haven't yet?
Well, I mean, when you were talking to Mary about her question, it really reminded me of another thing that's so different about Access and any Access live stream or class is that it's always a co-creation. We're called facilitators because we're uh, empowering you to know what you already know. And so you and your body and your questions are a contribution to everyone in the class. And so even that one question that just got asked was a contribution to me and to Hank and to everyone who's here now and who's going to be watching this in the future. And that's that exponentialization of possibilities. And so when we all get together in a room, it's us, our bodies, the questions, the topics in the manual, and then whatever we bring to the table contributes to greater possibilities for everyone. So every single Access class is totally different. We have, Hank and I have 2 How to Become Money workbook classes scheduled, and they will be different because it will be based on the questions and the energies of where everyone's at in that moment. And so, what can you contribute and what will you bring to these possibilities?
Yeah. And then we also have the advanced one. I've never done the advanced
Yeah.
workbook yet. And that's one reason we're doing it twice. So you have to do it 4 times to be able to take the advanced, but you don't necessarily, just to get clarity, do you have to do that 4 times with a facilitator or just go through it 4 times?
You have to have the prereqs for the advanced How to Become Money workbook, which is like the extra fast rocket ship of possibilities. And
Like light speed.
um, the yes, the and wow, talk about questions in that one. Um, one of the topics that would be so fun for us to talk about in one of these streams is what we were talking about in our conversation the other day, from the advanced book, which is, what would I have to charge for this to be fun for me? Which is what came up when you were talking about building websites. And that's a topic of the advanced book. So we talk about, now, so we were on prereqs. There's so many different things dancing around here. So the prereqs for the advanced are that you have to read the original How to Become Money workbook, either alone or with a facilitator, all the way through 4 times, and have taken an Access Foundation class. Now, the energy behind that is so that we can board the rocket ship and we can go. We can go to the farthest reaches of where everyone's willing to go and what they're willing to receive in the advanced class, because we all have cleared a certain level of limitation and point of view, and so that we can really reach into those possibilities of what can get chosen and created. So with the original How to Become Money workbook, we're clearing those points of view. We're letting go of that density and conclusion and kind of the heaviness that some of us have, or that we've locked in our bodies around money and abundance. And then in the advanced, we're opening the doors to what else is possible that you've never considered. And so in order to be able to have those types of advanced conversations, we have to lay a little bit of groundwork first. And so we're offering the 2 original How to Become Money workbook classes. So if you want to have some facilitation with reading that, some people find that that's more fun, and it's
definitely
helpful.
More fun. Yeah. Oh, and there's a different Mary. This is Mary Lee, and then I have another friend, Mary. You know her. She was in the class last time, and when I had mentioned that we were going to be doing that, she's like, "Oh, that you were coming." She's like, "Oh, is she doing the money class again? Because I want to do that." And she used a little expletive that I'm not repeating now, but she was very excited about taking it again, because it does create this whole different dynamic of energy because of the facilitation part of it. Because you guys, you'll know when I'm reading it, like I'm only allowed to read the book. I can't do anything else when we're doing those. But when you're in a class setting, then the doors open to all kinds of other possibilities. And just to clarify, foundation for me was more about the foundation that was built from the influence of like the implants from family, friends, religion, because I'm a recovering Lutheran. I was very indoctrinated with that. It was more about clearing the foundation and building anew than like the foundation to build on just without taking care of the other stuff. So it's kind of like you bulldoze the limitations out, and then you have a foundation of possibility, and that's what the foundation class is about. A lot of body processes and things, like the most we can talk about some of that stuff on a different stream, because that's diving into a whole other rabbit hole.
Juicy area. Yeah.
But it's a well-rounded thing where you're getting all these tools, getting rid of the foundation, adding in the possibility. And that's why I'm excited just to kind of springboard off of that right into an advanced money class. There's going to be, if you did all 3 or all 4, you're just going to be going nonstop. And how much change could you have? Let's see, that's 30 days plus bars and a foundation. That's like 36 days of change that you're just going to be like going. Maybe there might be a day break in there. But you also get the recordings that you can go back and listen to and things. So it's like, how much change could you have in 35 days if you were to honor you and fuel your possibilities and your rocket ship to take you to whatever the next level is going to be for you? That is kind of a really fun question. I know what I'm doing with my stimulus money. I'm taking your class.
I love that. That's so much fun. Yeah. And so much of this is energetic too.
Absolutely. Wow. And I think all the science shows us it's like 99.9% space or energy. I forget now. Dane talks about it, but I can't quite remember. Now I'm getting too spacey from the possibilities. I'm losing myself. No, but we didn't have any other questions. So with that, was there any final thought or final comment you wanted to make before we wrap here?
Well, I'm just that comment about the energy is that, part of this too is the energy of what possibilities can be created when we're together on a stream like this, or when we're together in person. It's really, really so fun and so amazing. I mean, there's been so much joy in my world just gathering together right here this morning. So I'm so grateful to you, Hank, and so grateful to everyone who showed up to contribute this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And for those, I always forget that this is audio too, and they can't see the screen. So if you're interested in finding out about some of the things that we talked about, it's on the Emergence of Being website. And if you just do /possibility, it will take you to a 1-hour created landing page with all of Heather's things that are coming up. And that I'm going to work on that the next couple of days and polish it up a bit. And then we're going to, as we stream, we're going to incorporate these streams and put them into that page too, to give you the relevant information where it's relevant. So you can check that out. And if you're watching this and you want to catch the archives of everything, you can get the show on iHeart radio, on iTunes, Spotify. It's on all the major podcast networks. So if you do that, please take a moment to rate, review, and download a few episodes. It all helps it get served up more organically. So you could be a contribution to this contagion of consciousness that we are spreading throughout the world. If you decide to share the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, all that tells the computer algorithms that be that it's relevant stuff that people are enjoying, and it will serve it up to more people. So thank you in advance for your contribution to the show. And Heather, thank you so much. This is the first of so many possibilities. I can't wait to see what else is possible.
Yes, thank you so much.
All right, bye everyone.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us today for the show. The Sonic Shaman is part of the Emergence of Being Contributor Network. Visit emergenceofbeing.com to learn about all the contributors and learn about our services and upcoming events. Please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. You can contribute to the show by supporting our efforts and sharing our content with those you care about and those who need it most.